What if I told you the Nintendo Switch 2 improves on every single aspect of the original Switch, but still somehow leaves people feeling like not much has changed? Today I'm reviewing the Nintendo Switch 2 in full after a few weeks of daily use, the good, the bad, and the expensive. If you've been wondering whether it's worth the upgrade or whether the gaming industry is pushing us too far with rising prices, then this video is for you. Let's break it down because while I'm still loving the Switch 2 and excited for what's to come next, I also think this console is a bit of a rude awakening about where the future of gaming is headed. Unboxing the Switch 2 feels like meeting a familiar friend with a few surprises. Inside you'll find the new Joy-Cons, slightly larger and way more ergonomic, and then the console itself. On the top there's a second USB-C port now, a new game cartridge door, and improved volume and power controls. On the bottom we've got a redesigned full-length kickstand that actually works. My bundle came with a Mario Kart digital download, an HDMI cable, new Joy-Con grips, and a faster USB-C charger. Important tip here, the charger from my previous OLED Switch wasn't powerful enough for the Switch 2, so make sure that you're using that new one and you can't use your previous one. But here's a question, do you think every single console generation needs to feel radically different, or is a meaningful iteration enough? Performance is where the Switch 2 quietly shines. There's a bunch of types of games that you can play for the Switch 2, and they're all better in some ways. You've got backwards compatibility to Switch 1 games. Expect those to look the same. No changes at all, but with faster load times that in some cases cut load times literally in half from the originals. Then you've got upgrades, where you take an original Switch game, you get an upgrade that gives you something better. Sometimes it's upscaled to 4K, sometimes it's a better frame rate, and in rare cases it actually takes advantage of new Switch 2 features, and those are usually paid. Nintendo published a list of those upgrades that are coming for free, and other ones that are more advanced are paid and found in the eShop. And then you get to Switch 2 games like Mario Kart World that are built for Switch 2, and that's where you get the best visuals, best frame rate and performance, and where it really shines. So through my testing, even if I was playing older, non-optimized Switch 1 games, they just run better. Load times were cut in half, frame rates are more stable, but then the real magic is optimized games. So Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and Breath of the Wild look shockingly better. Like even better than I was expecting them to, and I cannot wait to play these from the beginning again. Load times are quick, frame rate dips, way less common, even motion is so much smoother and you can tell it's upscaled to be much more HD. Then you get to the headliner games like Mario Kart World. This game showcases the true power of Switch 2, an open world format where you can go from the menu directly into a free world and just drive endlessly across the map. It feels like such a reinvention of the Mario Kart games, and I could get lost in this map for hours. I've never had a frame rate drop, lagging, or had to wait long load times. It is absolutely incredible. So these upgrades make the Switch 2 feel like a true next-gen Nintendo console. But here's the question. Should old games automatically get free upgrades for new consoles, or should that be resolved for deluxe editions? So let's talk screen. The new Switch is surprisingly an LCD display. No LED, I know on paper that's a big loss. So I had the OLED Switch 1 before this, and I really thought that I would miss the contrast and those deep blacks that OLED could provide. And truthfully, I was surprised Nintendo didn't opt for an OLED display on this one. But after testing, I'll be honest, I don't really miss it. The new screen is sharp, it's vibrant, it has a much smoother refresh rate which makes it feel like an upgrade compared to that OLED on Switch 1. Gameplay feels faster and cleaner, especially in handheld mode, so while on paper it might technically be a downgrade in some ways, it doesn't feel like a downgrade. And in fact, a poll done recently by Nintendo Life showed that most users really didn't feel like it was worse at all. So tell me, would you sacrifice an OLED visual screen if it meant smoother gameplay and longer system life? So here's where things fall a little bit flat. Battery life. Nintendo says 2 to 6.5 hours, and in my testing, that's pretty accurate. So in a real-world test, I was playing Zelda Wind Waker in the new GameCube catalog. It used about 50% of my battery in just 2 hours. Then I switched over to the new Mario Kart World, and after just 1 hour, it dropped an additional 40%. That's with mid-brightness, no Bluetooth or wireless controllers. So here's my advice here. turn down the brightness if you don't need it, use airplane mode when you can, and just to be safe, always bring a charger, because even though Nintendo is quoting this long battery life up to like 6.5 hours, you're probably going to get much lower than that depending on what you're playing. And compare that to the OLED Switch 4 to 6 hours. This is one area that's definitely a step back, and there's just no way around that. So what do you think? Is short battery life a deal breaker for handhelds, or is this just the cost of using more power? Let's move to accessories and the new controllers. The updated Joy-Cons are bigger and feel way more premium in every single way. Buttons are clickier, joysticks are tighter, and they're just more fun to use because they're bigger and easier. You can attach them to the console, you can use them separately with these new straps, or snap them into a Joy-Con grip for a more traditional controller feel. But my go-to is the new Pro controller. It's a little bit smaller, a little more compact, but it feels more high-end. Now includes a game chat button, headphone jack, and remappable buttons on the back, which is a really nice touch. It's the controller I use full-time, and I love it. Bonus, your old Joy-Cons still work wirelessly. They won't charge on the Switch 2 itself, but they still pair with it just fine. And I think that's a really awesome touch to be able to use all of your original controllers with this new console, and that at least saves you a little bit of money when you're spending so much on a new console. So let me ask, should every new console support old accessories, or is that asking too much? One thing I've traditionally hated about the Switch is playing in handheld, ironically, because that's a big selling point. I get hand cramping, and it leads to me playing for a really short time, and primarily playing docked with my TV. So I got the Killswitch case from dbrand that includes these ergonomic grips to make playing more comfortable. I've literally been playing this thing for hours with these grips with no discomfort, no cramping, and I really recommend them if you do have those issues. The case perfectly fits around all of the buttons and the ports, adding protection at all sides. It still enables you to detach the Joy-Cons, which is great, or you can use the stand, and it even comes with its own dock, so you can attach the Switch to the dock with the case still on. Also really cool, dbrand gave me these 5 different skins for the Joy-Cons that look absolutely incredible. I'm using the red and blue ones right now. They have precise cutouts, they're easy to apply literally in seconds. They're also perfectly color matched to the Joy-Cons, and they look great with the Killswitch case together. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to pick any of those up, but I have thoroughly been enjoying them. So next up, cases. I've tried a few of them. The official Switch 2 carrying case, sleek but underwhelming. It holds just the console and 6 games. That's it. My old third-party case held like 20 games in it and had a full accessories compartment, so I was a little bit underwhelmed here. And that brings us to another case here that I'm currently using a lot, which is the Nintendo's dock and Switch case. And I know, it's huge. This case is meant to fit your Switch 2, your dock, all of your controllers and accessories, and even a Pro controller. But just like on the other case, it still holds very few games, and it's really bulky for what it is. I'm using this to take it to friends who don't have a Switch 2 dock yet, and it's useful, but again, I'm pretty sure there's going to be better third-party cases out there that'll do a better job and fit more in it. But what are your thoughts? Are official cases the best option, or are third-party solutions doing a much better job these days? So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Price. This console is expensive. The games are expensive. Even upgrades to games you already own? Expensive. On PlayStation, some upgrades are completely free. On the Switch 2, not really. Accessories, also expensive. Storage upgrades, also expensive. You know, at a certain point, this stops being a fun little console and starts becoming an entire ecosystem that you're buying into. That's the part that's most concerning for me. Is this really the reality of inflation, or are we slowly being trained to accept premium pricing as the new normal? The Nintendo Switch 2 improves on every single aspect of the original Switch. It's more powerful, more refined, more enjoyable to use. The screen is great, the new games, fantastic, the controllers are better than ever. It is the Switch that I've always wanted. But it also comes at a cost, not just money, but expectations. Some people will look at this and say it's just another Switch. But I see the foundation of Nintendo's future here. And despite the price, I am genuinely excited to see what comes next. So I'll leave you with this. Is the Switch 2 a glimpse of a better gaming future, or a warning sign about the cost of progress? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you've picked one of these up, tell me what you're playing. And if you haven't already, I'd love to know what is holding you back. I'll be covering more Switch 2 content here soon, so make sure you're subscribed to that for more deep dives just like this. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.